me. I'll talk shit to Ducks
Yeah.
fans.
First thing people hear when they go live. Anyway, hello. Welcome to the D4 The Mighty Daves show. I'm your host, Dave Ball, also known as Blinston on Reddit and at Blinston1 on Twitter. And today I have two of my usual co-hosts in LA Kings Dave, as he is known on both Reddit and Twitter. We also have Dave Gamboa, known as David Gamboa on both Reddit and Twitter. How you guys doing?
Good.
Well, you could have told us that we were going live
I
first.
did. I did. I said we're going live, then I hit the broadcast,
Oh.
and then you started saying shit.
Well, I didn't hear you. I'm usually pretty good about my language on this show, so
Dave's a duck hater.
that's true. I don't hate. I live in Anaheim, so it's kind of hard not to run into a lot of fans that are hateable. I don't want to say terrible fans, because there are a lot of good Duck fans. I just want to say that it's hard sometimes when they talk, they run their mouth, and you just want to run your mouth back with them.
Is that what they're referring to as?
Yep.
Okay, so I guess we'll just slide into our first topic, and Rangers buy out Brad Richards. How do you feel
Woo!
about that, Gamboa?
I feel good. Well, I don't know. I'm gonna miss him. I did like Richards. He was great for us. That 6.6-second goal, which we'll always remember him for. One of my favorite Ranger moments from that I can remember. But to be honest, his cap was just way too bad. His cap hit. His contract was terrible. He had a no move clause. We just couldn't do it. There was just no way that we were not buying him out. There was every way we looked at it. There was just not any way. I don't know. For me, the most ironic thing was that the day before this happened, I think it was yesterday or the day before, his agent came out and said, "Oh, I'm very confident that Brad Richards will be a Ranger next year." So it's a bit awkward, but
Yeah.
no, I'm glad it happened. It needed to happen, and hopefully this allows us to
Resign
add
like the
some new players.
20,000. It also
I
helps you
know.
resign the 20,000. Like you only have
Yeah.
two people resign past like next year. One person
Yeah.
resign past next year for your forward group, and that is Rick Nash. And then you
Yes.
have three defensemen signed past next year.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
guys
Right
are
now we're
not
going to
in
be
a good
gunning.
space.
Nope, we're gunning really hard for a second or first line center. So
Mhm.
we're looking right now at either Joe Thornton. We really want Ryan O'Reilly, but we don't know if that's going to happen. If not, we'll probably make a good push for Stashny.
Take Vinny. You guys will
No,
love him.
that's okay. We already can have him. We don't need another fourth line guy.
He can be your first line center, and you know it. You know.
Oh yeah.
You know you want him.
Who doesn't, right?
Yeah.
Now, you're saying you're going to make a run for Ryan O'Reilly.
That's what people are saying, that if he is available, we'd love it, because then what would happen is that him and Stepan are 24 and 23 respectively, so in time we could very easily be running a 1A, 1B situation with them. So we'd love that. We'd love O'Reilly, and he's freaking spectacular. But if not, we'll probably try to gut for Stashny.
Do you feel that? I mean, obviously, he's a decent player, but you don't think Colorado's going to match that, especially if they're potentially losing Stastny? What do you think he's worth?
I don't know what he's worth, and I don't know exactly, because it also depends a lot on what we do with our cap situation. If we re-sign Strawman, if we trade Stahl, because we're thinking of maybe trading Stahl. It just all depends really on what we do with all our free agents, because, like the other Dave said, we have millions of people to re-sign.
Oh yeah.
So it just depends right now, and
O'Reilly.
Sorry, go ahead.
O'Reilly was a $5 million cap hit last season.
Yeah. So
he would be your third highest paid forward right now, behind Marty St. Louis and Rick Nash.
Yep. Because what we're trying to do is basically we want to get a deal that's basically replaces Brad Richards, but it's not Brad Richards, and we want it a little bit less, but we're willing to find someone who's either a potential or current one center or two center that can basically fill that spot, and we'd give him a contract similar in price or cap hit to Richards, but we just couldn't do Richards for such long term.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
But with Ryan
yeah.
O'Reilly, he's going into like the salary arbitration. I
Yeah.
don't feel like the Avs would trade him away if they're actually trying to go through that with him.
Yeah.
Obviously, they want him on the team.
Have there been any rumors from New York about Jason Spezza going there? Because obviously he's talked about leaving Ottawa. Everybody's discussing this. A lot of people have mentioned possibly St. Louis, but a lot of people have also mentioned St. Louis for Paul Statson. So is that something that you could be an option, or do you think that that's another case where he might be too old and you'd rather just have somebody younger?
Well, you know how we are. We're the deathbed for all old players, but the but I don't think it happens. I know we were talking about it a lot on the sub, and we were saying how the thing is that Spezza, one of the reasons he wants to leave Ottawa is because he doesn't like the pressure, and if he can't handle the pressure in Ottawa, he's sure as hell not going to be able to handle it in New York. So there's that, and apart from that, like you said, yeah, we think he's too old and he can't contribute as much as we want. We're actually going in a good direction with young prospects for once, and we have more of a young squad than we usually have had, and so we really don't want Spezza, and we'd rather have Thornton any day if we have to go for an older center.
I guess that makes sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There aren't really a lot of great centers out there in the free agent market this year.
No.
Yeah.
Not really. This
Aside
free agent
from
market
Stats,
is kind of.
It
not
is
that
one of
strong
the
in
poor
general.
years. You kind of had to expect that, though, after the new CBA was signed and all that it would take a couple years.
Yeah.
Next season, I mean, on paper, you have a lot of good centers dropping down, but most of them are going to get re-signed.
Who's going to
I don't think.
next year? Let's see.
Well, next year, Spezza's a free agent. Taves, Sean Horncroft, David Krejci, Mike Fisher, Danny Briere.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of guys next season that I don't know. I think it just sounds like a bigger. Obviously, Chicago's going to re-sign Taves, barring a miracle, but
I mean,
they have to
Krejci's
re-sign
probably
Kane
go
next
back
year
to
too. I think.
Boston.
Yeah.
Well, it should be interesting for New York to see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think we have a lot of potential to go in really good places, and we also have we have an opportunity to screw things up big time. So, I don't know. I'm just
I don't see you
curious
guys getting
to see
rid of
where
Bouchard,
goes.
Kreider, or Zuccarello, right? They're all restricted. You're gonna sign all of them.
I believe
Is there
so.
any way that you see either any of those three guys leaving?
Those guys? No. Well, I don't remember where we were talking about. I think we were saying something about if we traded for Spezza, really we don't, because we don't have picks. So the only way we'd be able to trade for Spezza is if we basically dump out our youth core, and that would be like Jesper Fast, Kreider, probably Haggerty. So players like that, and so that's really the other reason why we really don't want Spezza. But other than that, I don't see us not signing them.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So, I guess head on to the next topic. Chicago will be the 2015 Winter Classic opponent. They couldn't have picked any other least relevant team to the Caps.
Yeah.
Like, seriously?
I heard. Okay, I know this is another podcast. I don't care if we pimp it out, but Merrick versus Wyshynski today, I was listening to. They made a very good point, which made a lot of sense to me. And when I first heard the matchups, I thought that's kind of weird. I mean, obviously there's big teams, big names, but their idea was that the NHL is holding this in Washington against Chicago, who supposedly is Barack Obama's team, even though he's never been to a game. And they think that they are going to make a push to get Obama to attend the game, which obviously would be huge. Because there aren't a lot of acting presidents that have been to hockey games.
That makes sense, actually. So,
That is actually a really good point.
but who knows? If
I thought that was a very good idea, and obviously, I mean, a lot of people critique everything that the NHL does, but Gary Bettman's not an idiot, and I think
No.
that sounds like
Very
a
good
very
businessman.
plausible reason why they could have done that.
He's
And let's
he brought so much money to the NHL. He's a very good businessman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not part of the whole Bettman hate. I think he's great at what he does, and how much we've grown hockey in these past few years is amazing, even with a lockout. And I think that honestly, well, this is obvious, but Chicago is solely a ratings selection too. A lot of people are going to sit down and watch Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews play, and then there's Ovechkin. So in a way, it doesn't matter really that it's two irrelevant teams because what you want is new viewers, and I think that the way you're going to get new viewers is to get stars on the ice. You know?
There's also the HBO 24/7, and I think that with Chicago, you have a lot of Canadian and American guys that are big name players that people can recognize because of Chicago's runs the last couple years, and also understand. You know, they don't have a ton of foreign guys. That one of the biggest problems with generating stars in the NHL has always been foreign guys. Aside from the Gretzky's and Lemieux, but even Lemieux when he came in couldn't speak English very well because he was French Canadian. So I think that's part of the big deal is they want an American in Patrick Kane, who's one of probably the best American in the game right now, and then obviously Taves. So you have a couple guys that they're just going to get a ton of airtime.
Yep.
And this is actually the last year for 24/7, so they're probably going to try to get some people who seem to have some type of personality with it after what was the kind of non-personality of last year.
What do you mean the last year for 24/7?
I think they only had like they only had a contract for a certain number of years, so they had to renew.
You don't think they're going to re-sign that though?
I mean, they might. Who knows? But they're probably trying to get more personality with this year, which I think
Perhaps they might.
Kane has some type of personality to help with that.
I wonder if the NHL will try to take control of it and do their own kind of thing, and then put it on NBC instead.
Either that, or put it on the NHL Network and try to promote that.
Yeah.
Well, they had that other NHL show this last year. I forget the name of it, but they had the NHL doing.
Revealed.
Yeah, NHL Revealed. Thank you. And a lot of people complained that a lot of the diehard fans complained about it because the beauty of 24/7 is you can see guys cuss, you can see guys fight, you see all that backstage stuff, and NHL Revealed really didn't do a very good job of that. It was just a lot of players driving around and doing day-to-day stuff, but not a lot of excitement to it.
Yeah, no water bottles.
The water bottle police.
Well, even the players. I think that even the players on Toronto and Detroit last year weren't that exciting of players anyway.
Yeah.
Toronto maybe more so, but Detroit is such a professional organization and runs so well from top to bottom, and everybody acts well. There's not a lot. Even the supposed bad boy like Tutu wasn't really playing. Bertuzzi didn't get a lot of airtime because he'd settled down and things like that, and it's just they need people that are interesting in front of the camera. And I think with Chicago, obviously Patrick Kane's interesting. Taves might be Captain Serious, but at least it's a good dichotomy. I think Patrick Sharp's pretty enough that people are going to be like, oh, that's interesting. Host has got personality. I think that Bullock's got personality. Brandon Saad's interesting because he's partially Serbian or whatever. I think that Duncan Keith's hateable. Like I know that sounds like I'm not trying to be an ass to Chicago, but really, like sometimes it's good to have that villain kind of role where people can be like, you know what, this guy's hated by a lot of people in the league. So I think that Chicago's good for viewership.
Yeah.
And I
don't know what's going on in the background, but one of you guys has something.
That was not me, so.
Gamboa.
What? Was it like a weird sound?
It was like
Yes.
screeching-ish noise, yeah.
Oh, that's my chair, I think. I'm gonna try to stop it. Okay, should stop.
On the flip side, Washington obviously has Ovechkin, who's always interesting. Brooks Laich, who's well-spoken, and everybody loves him. Joel Ward, who creates that interesting, like, Wayne Simmons type thing they had a couple years ago where you have an African-American minority who plays a big role on a team, which the NHL loves. Mike Green is good in front of a camera. Braden Holtby's pretty. So there you go.
It's perfect.
You just need the eccentric goalie to be one of these guys. We don't have an eccentric goalie this year, do we?
I
No.
don't think so.
I mean, then
Well,
again,
maybe,
no one
you know
could-
what? You know what else is if they re-sign Dustin Penner, that'll be interesting. Dustin Penner is fantastic
I
in
thought he was
front of the.
traded.
Oh yeah.
I know he wasn't traded. Never mind.
No, he's
But he
he's
was
an
traded
unrestricted
to-
free agent though. But if Washington does re-sign him, although I've heard rumors that he might be coming back to Southern California, although that's just because he lives here and he loves it here. But he would be interesting too, and he's great on Twitter and in front of the camera.
Mhm.
That'd be a good if they could get him for 24/7.
Yeah. So. Okay then. Next topic. The Kings will not buy out Mike Richards. I almost said Brad again. So how do you feel about not buying out your Richards?
I'm actually okay with it. Probably more so than most people that follow hockey because they all just look at the numbers. But he got paid more than he deserved this year. I'm not going to deny that.
Mhm.
But at the same time, he does so many things so well besides just scoring
Yeah.
that it's hard to say that he's not worth decent money still, just not as much as he made. And everyone's like, "Oh, you paid 7.5 for him." Well, not. I mean, our cap hit was 5.7. So, yes, it was too much, but at the same time, Dustin Brown's making more, and he only had less than 30 points this season. So, you're looking at two guys that didn't score a whole lot during the regular season, but then turned it on during the playoffs, and that's been the Kings' MO every year for the last 3 years.
Mhm.
We're shit in the season. We're good in the postseason.
Yeah.
I don't really know what else to say about it. I don't know why the coaching. I don't know what it is, but our offense struggles in the regular season except for Kopitar. Whichever line Kopitar's on, those guys always seem to perform well. Jeff Carter scores goals, and
Yeah.
nobody else contributes. So, it is what it is.
You can always charge Jeff Carter up to getting at least 40 goals. So I don't know how many he got this year for you guys though.
This year, well, he was injured for part of the year, but I still think that he had almost 30. I think he had 26 this season, if I
He had
remember correctly.
27 in 72 games.
Okay.
Not
Yeah,
bad.
he was hurt for 10 games, and, you know, I mean, you look at his numbers from last year, he had 26 goals and 7 assists. So,
That was in a shortened season though. So
his overall point total is about the same average.
Mhm.
It's just this year he was dishing the puck more because this year he's playing center. Last year he played wing, and he just had guys setting him up for goals all the time.
yeah. He's
This year he had to do a whole lot more.
Normally he's a shoot first type of person, so I don't know why you wouldn't have him be passing much.
Well, we needed a second line center really because Richards wasn't cutting it.
That makes sense.
So it used to be Richards was in center, and then Carter was on the wing last year, and Richards was not performing very well. So they moved Carter to center and put him on that 70s line with Tanner Pearson and Toffoli, and they started clicking at the second half of the season.
Okay, so I guess you got to do what you need to do. At least he was able to adapt to the center, because I know for us most of the time he did play wing. He played a little bit in center when he was on our top line when he was with Hartnell. And then once kind of Claude Giroux came up, and we shifted Claude Giroux to center, even though he started off as a right wing. And then we shifted Carter to wing. And then he started taking off with the goals.
Well, he had 40 in one season for you guys, right?
Yeah, 46, 33, 36. So.
He knows how to score.
Yeah. Except in the playoffs for us. For some reason, he can score in the playoffs for you. It makes me very angry.
Tell me about it.
Okay, then. The next topic is the Canucks might have a new coach now. Willie Desjardins gets signed with them instead of Pittsburgh, it seems. Multi-year deal. What do you guys think about that?
Is that confirmed yet?
I'm not sure if it's 100% confirmed, but there's been 2 people reporting it.
Okay.
It's on Sportsnet, and then Kevin Weeks reported it.
So that would probably mean that Ulf Samuelsson is going to the Pens, right?
I think, yeah.
What's interesting to me is a comment that I saw earlier today about this on Reddit, where one of the Pittsburgh fans was saying something along the lines of the fans and media in Pittsburgh didn't want him, and everybody in Vancouver was excited about him. Well, no offense to Pittsburgh, because I know there's a lot of good Pittsburgh fans, but I would say that Vancouver is a smarter and more intelligent market.
I mean, the guy just
So,
won the Calder Cup.
What's that?
Obviously, he just won the Calder Cup. Obviously.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that Pittsburgh just wants I think Pittsburgh's looking for a big name now because they feel like they can win now. So when they heard that it was him, they were like, "Well, we don't know this guy," so they weren't excited about it. But the Vancouver fans are excited about it because they're like, "Well, we need somebody that can build our team right now because they're kind of in a semi-rebuilding, if not full rebuild mode, and when you get a guy that can work with young players, they're excited about it. So I think it's a better fit for him and for Vancouver in general.
Yeah. I mean, if they wanted a big-name coach, I'm pretty sure there's only one left out there, and I doubt they're going to try to get him in Torts. And I doubt he'll go to Pittsburgh. So that would be the most hysterical thing to watch.
Good Lord, I'd love to see Torts yell at Crosby.
What do you think about Ron Wilson coming there?
Ron Wilson?
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
He's been out of the game for a couple years.
I'm just curious to see.
Oh, okay. I know.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just curious to see what whoever goes in does with the stars, because I think that's the stars on the team, because I think that's one of the biggest things Bylsma kind of screwed up with was when his star players weren't performing. He never adjusted too much to help them perform. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah,
right.
That was one of my biggest gripes with Bylsma. He couldn't get his stars going.
That's everyone's kind of biggest gripe with him. Like you saw perfectly in the Olympics, he could not rally his team to push forward. So.
Yep. With Kessel and everyone, and he couldn't get any of them going.
Couldn't get Kessel, couldn't get JVR. Who was our center for that team?
Yep.
Couldn't get Patty Kane.
Couture? Oh, Kane, yeah.
Well, I'm just going to throw it out there that I know maybe he didn't work in Toronto, but a lot of people have failed in Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, look at who they're not they're too mess up an organization to really kind of what's the word I'm looking for? To not fail, I guess.
He's 8th all time in wins. He has a .531 winning percentage, which isn't that bad. When you look at the all time, and a lot of those losses were with Toronto. So he was decent in San Jose and Anaheim.
He's 4th all time in games coached, so he has been around for a while. If he's 4th. So.
Yeah. There's also, I doubt Mike Keenan's going to go there, but I heard a rumor about him coming back to the league.
Oh, God, please no.
Jeez. Well, we know Mike Keenan won't go to Florida.
He needs to just stay away.
It's very far away.
Where was he in? Oh, he was in the KHL, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be interesting to see what happens there.
His team just won the Gagarin Cup, though, wherever you say the cup name.
Gagarin, Yuri Gagarin. Yeah, and he was coaching Evgeny Malkin's home team.
Mm-hmm. So could be a kind of a match made in heaven, I guess. But how do you guys think he would work in Pittsburgh? I don't know what he would do.
Well, he's won a Stanley Cup, and now he's won, the KHL championship. The man knows how to coach.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people thought that he was past his prime.
Yeah.
But if Jim Rutherford, the new GM in Pittsburgh, he's only going to be there for 3 years or whatever anyway before they bring in the new guy. and they want to win now,
He might be a type of coach that helps them win now.
yeah,
Yeah.
mean,
they
he's
have
been
the
around for a
talent to
while.
do it. They
He's
have the
been around.
talent,
They really
and,
should be winning cups.
I think the problem is like when you look at a guy like that, he wears teams out.
Yeah.
But if you want to win right now, who cares if he wears you out in the next 2 years if you win?
hmm
Yeah.
But he might not be the type of coach they need for their goaltending situation, because how much he pulls his goalies.
He is one of the few coaches that would pull the goalie and then pull the backup and put the original goalie back in.
But how do you think that would do with Fleury in the playoffs if he were to do that? That would just throw his goalies around so much. I mean, Fleury this year kind of proved that he can play in the playoffs. But if you have a coach like Mike Keenan doing his shit that he does to goalies, how would he react?
Well, do you think that Fleury is going to get bought out?
He has like two. He's
He
a
only
free
has
agent
1 year
next
left.
year. He has
It's not
1
really
year
worth it,
left.
I guess.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
be buying all out this summer just so you don't, and they don't have someone to bring in behind him. So
There aren't a lot of good free agent of any kind, as you mentioned earlier. So
yeah, I mean, there's Miller still on it, but I doubt he would go
Yeah.
to Pittsburgh.
that would be interesting, though, if they bought out Fleury and brought in Miller.
It would be
But
interesting.
Miller's never been a playoff performer.
That would.
Yeah,
Yeah. Proven this year.
that was more so the Blues kind of proving that they weren't all they should have been. I mean,
That is
Yeah, there's
true, but
nobody
still,
really
he
to-
did make a lot of.
Mhm.
Go
I
ahead.
feel like he still made some mistakes, though, that that I feel as though if you're that caliber of goalie and you're demanding kind of as much money as or even attention as Miller does, there were just a lot of mistakes that I would have preferred not to see from a goalie that you're expecting to take you to the Stanley Cup.
Yeah. But how much is that, would you think, because he's so used to having to just be the best player at all times when he was on Buffalo, because how bad their team was and having to overcommit on pucks to stop them. He just maybe didn't get a chance to get used to not having to do that type of thing.
Oh yeah, I think that's a lot, and I think it's the same kind of thing as Rick Nash. Coming from Columbus to New York, and all of a sudden you're not the main guy, and it's weird not getting all those minutes, not getting all those chances. Same thing for Miller. You don't get as many pucks, and you have a feeler when you get a feel for taking maybe 40 shots a night, and then all of a sudden you drop it down to about 20 shots a night. It's a lot different psyche as a goalie. So
Mhm.
I think that had a huge impact on him.
So, I mean, I don't know if they did buy out Fleury, who they would bring in besides Miller. I mean, Brodeur, would he be their starter? Jonas Hiller's out there, Tim Thomas. I mean, they can try Devin Dubnyk if they want to attempt
Oh
that.
jeez,
Evgeny,
I don't know if anyone's going to touch the Dubnyk.
Evgeny Nabokov, Brizgalov, the Berlin Wall. They could try to bring him in. Ray Emery. Jiggy's probably going to retire. And after that, there's not much. So,
No, this.
I mean, that's a pretty good list of goaltenders, but, Tim Thomas is most likely going to retire. Dubnyk
Thomas.
is going to be gone.
Thomas, Hobby Bulin, Jaguar, Nabokov, probably all gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brodeur wants to come around again, but I don't really see anybody signing him.
Except as a veteran backup. I think there's been talks that the Flyers might want, on our Flyers, maybe we can bring him in to be a kind of a backup to Steve Mason to help his puck handling, because Steve Mason's a very good puck handler. Having Brodeur kind of help him with that would be amazing for him, but Brodeur wants to start, and so it would be horrible.
I don't get how he thinks he can start. He has been below average or average for the past 4 years.
Because he went to the Cup a couple years ago, so he thinks he's amazing.
But that wasn't him.
I don't know. I think a big thing too is that yeah.
He's still
I think a
backs
big
up
thing
team to
too
the
is
Cup.
I think a big thing too is that the goalie prospects right now. I think there's a really good prospect pool for goalies. So a lot of teams, they either have perhaps their future netminder set, or their current goalie is very young. So in reality, it's why bring in Jaguar or whatever, because And then if eventually you could probably give an opportunity to Jake Allen or whatever, for example, on the Blues.
Yeah. I mean, almost every single team has a bona fide number one or has one getting ready to take over.
Yep.
I mean, the only situation that might not have one is Calgary, Vancouver now, but Eddie Lack could be the real thing for them. And Minnesota.
No, I disagree with you on Calgary because everyone's been saying for a while that Ramo is going to be the guy.
Is he?
So, and supposedly,
And he could be for all I know. I haven't, really followed his career. I know.
I actually think the Pittsburgh is one of the ones that doesn't have things locked up. Like after this year, if Fleury goes,
they have.
I don't think they have.
Who was their backup this year?
It was Vokun, but he's gone.
No, they had a rookie backup this year also.
It was Zach. It was Zach
Yeah,
Hoff,
what was his name?
but he used to be in the Kings organization. He's old and he's never been great. Like he was in the Kings organization behind a lot of other people for a while, but we just shipped him off because we had Martin Jones and we had Ben Scrivens, and it's like he's a backup guy. Like he's not the future for them.
He's 27 and kind of, yeah. I can understand what you mean, yeah. He's not old for a goalie. Goalies usually peak around 30, so...
That's fine, but I'm just saying he's never been a top
yeah.
prospect. I don't even know if he was drafted, but...
I'll look that up. He signed at 21, so he probably was undrafted.
Yeah.
But you think Romo could be their number one in the Flames organization, I guess?
That's what people are saying.
I guess. So.
Speaking of goalies, by the way, Anaheim said today that they're not bringing back Hiller.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they're probably going to try to go with their two. Who was their other starter in the playoffs?
Frederik Andersen
and Gibson.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean,
Gibson's the future, but some people think he should spend another year in the minors.
Or at least spend another year in the minors, and if he does come up next year, bring in maybe Martin Brodeur to help him next year if Martin wants to still play, or bring somebody that could kind of show him the ropes in the NHL. Even though he wasn't bad in the playoffs, it was just because he was most likely trying really hard to not mess up, and it was basically he was trying too hard. I don't think he's going to be able to play the same way he did as he did in the playoffs.
I kind of feel like Anaheim doesn't necessarily need a goalie to show him the ropes, because Anaheim has one of the best goaltending coaches in the league, and that's why they have guys like Andersen and Hiller, and other guys that have come in there and done well.
That's true.
But moving on, though.
So the Oilers acquire the rights to Nikita Nikitin. I say I love that name. It's so much fun to say. But, yeah, it's one of the Columbus Blue Jackets defensemen, I believe.
Yeah.
I believe it was defenseman. But yeah, he was their second or third pairing defenseman. It's not that big of a deal for them, I don't think. Though then again, anything can really help the Oilers defense. He pretty much, I think he'll be a solid pickup if they are able to sign him, because he's a UFA this year.
I know someone was saying on Reddit, the commented, and they said, well, the thing is that Nikita Nikitin was Columbus's worst defender, basically is what they were saying in their opinion. And so, but he would still be an upgrade from anything on Edmonton, which I believe. So it's good, though. I'm glad that Edmonton is finally looking at improving their D, which is what they really need.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they've needed that for a while, and they just can't get people to come there is another problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's their...
I mean, aside from Justin Schultz, who decided to opt for there instead of Anaheim because he was an idiot. I don't know how much he regrets that now, but...
Come on, they were on the tick up, right? That was 3 years ago.
I'm kind of wondering, how exactly did Edmonton acquire his rights? Because according to Cap Geek, Nikita is an unrestricted free agent. So... How did they do that?
So I think what happens is that they, because he was with the Blue Jackets have the right to try to re-sign him until free agency. So they have until July 1st. So what happens is that if they trade him to Edmonton, Edmonton can now talk to him and put in offers before July 1st. If he weren't, they'd have to wait until July 1st and battle it out with other teams.
Hmm.
Okay.
We
But-
did the same thing with Mark Streit last year, where we traded for his rights. Basically, trade for him to have a chance to talk to him. It's usually just a pick and a prospect, if that. to do
Okay,
it.
so it's like a Dan Boyle situation.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right.
Like that. I mean, it's not too uncommon to do that. If you really want a player, you trade for the rights, just so you can, talk to them before everyone else.
This seems pointless to me from Edmonton's standpoint.
Yeah.
I don't really get why they didn't, but who knows why
They could've
Edmonton
just
does what they
waited,
do.
So, yeah, you kind of don't question Edmonton anymore. It's easier that way, because you're kind of you hurt your brain if you try to think about it too long. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that was that. Nabokov is going to test his free agency. Not a big surprise. He probably wants to still be a starter for some reason, even though he is like 39. I doubt he'll be a starting position.
Yeah, no, and there's no way with Brodeur above him that I think Brodeur is the number one choice if you want an older goaltender,
Yeah.
and then maybe Nabokov, but still.
Mm-hmm. Nabokov's actually only 38, so
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
only 38, but still, he could be still serviceable, even though he was horrible this year with the Islanders. But that's not saying much.
Yeah, the Islanders were terrible in general.
At one point at the beginning of the season, they were second in our division when everyone else was being bad.
They were so good. I was excited for them. I thought we'd have a good outdoor game. I thought they'd maybe make the playoffs, but no.
They made the playoffs last year.
In a shortened season because they didn't have time to crap the bed. That's basically all it was.
I'm going to
Same-
defend the Islanders here this year and say that they had a lot of injuries, which is true, including obviously Tavares getting hurt during the
Yeah.
Olympics.
I mean, as soon as he
Also,
went
I
down-
feel like obviously their management is not the greatest,
Mhm.
but I feel like they're at least I don't really mind that they held their coach for one more year, because I feel like if they had let him go, it would have been turning into another Edmonton situation where you're just going through coaches instead of creating a system.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for Capuano because he gets all the blame, but it's really comes down to ownership. And Garth Snow got to be a GM when he had no experience. And everyone gives Garth Snow a hard time about a lot of things, but
He's trying his best with the cap
he
situation. they have
does his
there.
best with the cap situation, and basically he was hired in order to sign DiPietro to that huge contract that he gets the most crap about.
That was the only reason.
But
he
the
was hired.
owner was the one that wanted him to sign that. So I
And-
think that
Go ahead.
it's good to see the Islanders at least committed to a coach and GM for another season, and they've locked up Tavares to a very friendly contract. They have room. They're moving into a new stadium soon. I hope that they do well for the sake of Tavares, because I like Tavares a lot as a player.
Mhm.
Yep.
I'd have to say, with the thing about the DiPietro contract, at the time, yeah, it was a big contract, but DiPietro was a really, really good goaltender. He just
Oh yeah.
went out of nowhere and just started getting injured and just was made of glass after a while. But at the time, he was like one of the best American goaltenders to be playing at that moment. He was the future of American goaltending, and it was rightfully deserved because he was that good. But he just couldn't stop getting hurt. So I could see
Yep.
why they wanted him to contract because of how good he was. But it's just looking in the aftermath of how broken he ended up being that people laugh
Yeah.
about it.
And I want to go on record before I say this that I hate the Islanders with all my heart and all my every ounce of my being. But I defend them, and I think that they're not only due for a good season this year, but last year, like LA Kings Dave said, they had so many injuries. I mean, Lubomir Visnovsky was injured, Tavares got injured. It was as though their AHL team was up there playing, and you couldn't. And what's the guy's name? their young goaltender that came in because even Nabokov got injured. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
But he was terrible. Sorry.
Yeah.
He is
Yeah,
awful.
Nah.
So,
But
they're
they
good,
signed
and I like
Yaroslav Halak, so that's a good move
it's
for
gotta
them.
turn. It's gotta turn around from them just with that. In all honesty.
Yeah, I mean Halak is a decent goal. He might not be the greatest goaltender in the league, but he's
he
a
is
guy
better
that's
than
going
what
to
they've
go out
had.
there and try for you every night and be better than half the league. So that's a really good move,
Oh, yeah.
especially with Nabokov leaving.
Oh, definitely. It's definitely a turnaround.
And really,
Halak just wanted. Oh yeah, and Halak just wanted a starting spot. So I think that's why he signed in New York. I don't think he cares that it's in New York. He just wanted to know that he was the guy, and
There's
being there,
no
I think
one
he's excited to
competing.
be just the guy.
There's no
Exactly.
one with him there. There's not gonna be a 1A 1B situation like he had with the Blues. Even though it seemed like he kind of edged it out a little bit to it being him. There is no Brian Elliott hiding, jumping on his back every once in a while.
No.
So.
Exactly.
They have a decent top six when they're all healthy too.
Oh
They
yeah.
just need to get a lot. Obviously, they still need a lot of work, but
They're turning it around definitely. And
I don't know why we're talking about the Islanders, but we are. These things happen.
they're a team in the NHL. We can talk about them. That's a lot.
They don't play like an NHL team, but they're getting there.
APAT will be stoked about this.
Yeah. We're all rooting for them, even though they're in our division. It's kind of sad that they've been bad for this long.
And I love Tavares. I said it.
You said you hate them. I totally get that. Obviously, they won 4 Stanley Cups way back in the day, and all of that. Also, for those of you that don't know, but I'm sure you guys both know, the Islanders started the playoff beer tradition.
Yeah.
They have a lot of good things, and I like Tavares.
They should not have won in the 1980 Cup. Even though I was not born, I know enough about it that I should be pissed about it. They should not have won it.
Why do you feel that way?
It was an offsides. The ref has come out and said I blew the call.
That's fine, but that's one play.
It was the overtime winning goal that led to the Stanley Cup. It was not one play, it was the play that won them the Stanley Cup.
Well, that's true, but
I mean, that was the same year that we had a 35-game unbeaten point streak going, because we had ties back then. That was that team that they decided to blow the call in the end. Like I said, I know enough to know I should be mad.
The only thing I know that I
the Flyers only had 116 points that season. I mean, scrub.
Only 116 points. Yeah.
Actually,
Still, that band sucks.
That's way back in the day when Eastern Conference teams could play each other in the final.
Mm-hmm.
But they did win 4-2, so it wasn't just that either.
Still, we had a chance.
True.
You never know.
Exactly. It's like me complaining that the Kings won because they didn't call goalie interference. As much as I'm salty about that, it's not. We didn't lose because of that, and that's the truth. I mean, we could have played a little bit better in overtime and whatnot. So it's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, but the ref is forever hated in Philadelphia now. Every single time he stepped on the ice, he used to be booed.
And it's not
booed. It's not like the boo ribbon you give to the refs. It was, we hate you, boos.
1980, well, it was the 79-80 season, which was a historic season for a lot of reasons in the NHL. And I'm going to go off here really quick, but you guys know I love the history of hockey. That is one of the most important seasons in the history of hockey because the WHA folded that year, which was the rival league to the NHL. And the NHL absorbed the Edmonton Oilers, Winnipeg Jets, New England Whalers, who later became the Hartford Whalers, and the Quebec Nordiques. And a little history on the Quebec Nordiques. Originally, it was going to be 3 teams, but Quebec wasn't going to be a part of that because Montreal didn't want them as a competitor in Quebec.
Mm-hmm.
So all of Canada boycotted Molson, the beer, because Molson owned the Canadians. And Winnipeg and Edmonton got on board in boycotting them, the entire city. So Molson was losing so much money in Canada that they were like, all right, we'll let Quebec join the league. Which
Really?
was ridiculous. Like, can you imagine, like, Budweiser or somebody doing that for somebody?
Boycotting an entire. Wow.
So, yeah, that season was, I mean, obviously you had 4 new teams join, but aside from even that, is that draft, which, as some of you probably read on my way back Wednesday this week regarding the draft, that draft is one of the most historic of all time because you had all these players coming from the WHA, because when they absorbed these 4 teams, the league only allowed those 4 teams to hold on to 2 players each.
Mm-hmm.
Edmonton was an exception because Wayne Gretzky had signed a contract with the owner as a personal contract instead of with the team. So Edmonton basically got to hold on to 3 players with Gretzky. So you had all these players in the draft that year. So it was one of the greatest drafts of all time. Most people consider that and maybe now 2003 as the greatest drafts of all time. And you had Wayne Gretzky join the league that year along with these other teams. And it was the last time for 8 years that Wayne Gretzky did not. It was his rookie season, but technically he wasn't a rookie because he wasn't drafted.
Mm-hmm.
Ray Bourque won Rookie of the Year that year. And Marcel Dion won top scorer even though he tied with Wayne Gretzky in points, but he had more goals. And that was the last time before Wayne Gretzky led the NHL in points with the Kings that the Kings had a top scorer. It was the one and only time that Gretzky didn't do that in 8 years.
Wow.
Wow. I didn't know that.
So yeah, 79-80, great season. I mean, I'm sorry that your Philadelphia team lost on a shitty call, but that is literally, not even figuratively or sarcastically, maybe the most important season in the history of the NHL in the modern era.
I could see that definitely with all
Yeah.
the things you mentioned. Yeah. I mean, definitely the folding of
course.
the WHA was.
Well, you
a
had
big
Mark Messier get drafted that year too. Mark Howe.
Mark Howe, yeah.
Ray Bourque, obviously, as I said, was Rookie of the Year that year. It was just, Gretzky came in that year. It was just an amazing year. Mike Gartner came in that year.
Mm-hmm. Brad McCrimmon was in. Wow, it's actually a pretty good draft. Oh, Pelle Lindbergh. That makes me sad now.
And also, one more thing is, that was the beginning. Obviously, I know you were upset as a Philly fan, but the Islanders
Kind of
are
started
the
out their
greatest
story
American dynasty in North American sports as far as for a 4-year run.
there. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had teams like the Yankees that won a lot in the 50s or, the 30s or things like that, but no team in the U.S. had ever won 4 titles in a row. I take that back. I'm wrong.
Fine.
In the NHL.
Okay.
Boston Celtics did it in the NBA. Forget that.
Okay.
Boston Celtics, on another tangent, I know we don't care about basketball.
Now you can go off on it. We don't really. Say off.
They won 8 titles in a row in the 60s.
Really? 8?
Wow.
8 straight titles.
Wow. How do you win 8 titles in a row like that?
Limited competition, and they had Bill Russell and Cousy, who were 2 of the best players. And the Lakers played them quite a few of those times.
Mm-hmm. I didn't realize Mark Messier went in the 3rd round. I'm still looking at the 79 draft.
It's one of the most ridiculous drafts ever. I think that there was 4 or 5 surefire Hall of Famers in that draft.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only other draft that has rivaled that so far in Hall of Famers, when I was looking at it this week, was 84, and that was the Messier, Brett Hall, Luc Robitaille year, and Patrick Waugh. Patrick Waugh and Mario Lemieux actually have the same birthday, and they both went in that draft.
Mhm.
So 84 was a good year, and 2003 is probably going to be a year where we look back and we say that there's
That draft was
holes.
crazy deep in 2000.
Yeah.
I mean, how did that draft go for you, Gamboa?
they got Brian
All
Boyle
our
in
drafts
that
are
No, I'm
Was
just
that
kidding.
true.
We drafted Brian Boyle, but
Even
you
we're
guys
losing. Oh yeah. Well, we have him now, but we're losing him now, so it's okay. We had him for a
You
while.
guys aren't going to resign Brian Boyle?
He doesn't want to resign with us. He wants a bigger role.
He said that?
Yeah.
How much
supposedly-
more is
so,
he going to
I guess-
do? I mean, we tried to make him into something better here, and he wasn't good enough to be that guy.
Well, he played really well for us, but supposedly what people are saying is he wants a Prust type thing, where when we had Prust, he did similar role to what Boyle's doing now. And then what the Canadians did is they took Prust and they gave him a few more minutes, and they gave him a top power play spot too. And so that's kind of what everyone's saying that Boyle wants, is he wants that kind of deal.
Well, maybe
we
he
can't give him that.
I mean, I don't watch him day in and day out anymore, but obviously we drafted him in 2003. Watching him come up, you're like, oh, this guy's huge, like, and he can play, but he just didn't live up to his potential with us. So I'm wondering, do you think he's just overshooting he's overvaluing himself?
Based on how he played this season, I don't think so. I think he could definitely get those few extra minutes. But, yeah, because he was really kind of, for us, a lot of people liked to knock on him, especially when they didn't watch enough Ranger games, because it was easy to kind of single him out. And he's not extremely physical, but in reality, especially on the penalty kill, he was our unsung hero in so many games and so many moments, especially as the season progressed. AV made him a lot better offensive player. Actually made him be a little more physical, which was a miracle. But I think he could definitely get what he's asking for. I don't know if he's going to get much of an increase as far as pay, but I think he could definitely get a little bit of an increase in minutes.
Okay.
So I guess we're gonna go into the draft now.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised that took as long as it did.
Oh,
Anyway,
there's
yeah.
only one thing. At the end of any Islander discussion with a Ranger fan, there has to be a Pot Van sucks. So there you go.
Potvin, so.
Okay, draft.
Actually, okay, I'm just gonna throw something out there really quick.
Go for it.
I gotta look this up really quick, but I remember. Okay, so when Dennis Potvin was coming up, everyone was saying he was gonna be the next Bobby Orr. And I read about this week, and it was fascinating to me. Is because of the WHA. Let me see. WHA obviously was the rival to NHL for a little while, and they were picking players off from the NHL because they didn't have an age limit. NHL had an age limit of 20, and so that's why Gretzky went to play in the WHA before when he was 17 and things like that. Well, the NHL did a draft where they did it in private and secretively the year that Potvin was going to be drafted because they thought he was going to be the next Bobby Orr. And this was in 73, actually.
Mhm.
And that was the year, I'm sure you guys have heard about Buffalo drafting an imaginary player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the same year. And they did it all secretively by conference, like conference calls and things like that. And it was just a disaster. But I just thought it was interesting because they wanted to hold on to Potvin so much.
Wow.
I mean, it's not like he was a bad player.
Oh no.
No, he was a great player.
Well, no.
Won 3 Norris trophies. Wow.
Yeah.
4-time Stanley Cup winner with the Islanders, obviously. Yeah. Well, but not. I mean, it kind of makes sense why they did what they did because they didn't want to lose their players to the WHA. So.
Yeah. You don't want to lose the best players. I mean.
So now that we have we talked about the draft, let's go into this year's draft discussion. And who do you guys think is going to be the first overall? Who's going to go first?
Ekblad.
You think it's going to
Yeah.
be Ekblad?
I
Yeah.
don't see why Florida wouldn't, especially if Brian Campbell supposedly wants to leave there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes
Why would you?
I mean, I think that. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I don't know. I just don't see any of the teams. All the teams that are trying to move up to first, or the teams, or even Florida, who is at first, they're all looking to draft a defenseman. So I just don't see how Ekblad wouldn't go first. Not necessarily because he might be the best or has the best future, but I just think that the teams that are looking to move up there want Ekblad. So
Yeah. It does seem kind of be the general consensus. So.
yeah,
I hate when teams draft defensemen first overall for the most part. Very rarely do you get guys that are ready to go
Mhm.
and that are good
Not
enough.
everyone
But
is
I think that in
Jones.
this case, this draft class, everyone's saying this draft class is kind of weak,
Mhm.
and Florida needs defensemen anyway, so why not?
yeah.
I mean, it's not going to hurt the organization. It might hurt the player in the end for getting thrown in so fast, but
Everyone says he's NHL ready, though.
just because they
Yeah.
say he's NHL already doesn't mean that he actually is. And you can't hurt a player by keeping him down.
No.
You can hurt a player by pushing him too early, too fast.
I think it depends where he goes. If he goes to like Buffalo or Florida or one of those teams, I think he'll start in the NHL. I think if Philly moves him up or something like that, then I think he goes down. But I think Florida and Buffalo and Edmonton, those kinds of teams, need defensemen so desperately and good defensemen.
Mhm.
The chances are they might just keep him up and see what happens.
Yeah.
I think Buffalo is actually set on defensemen, so I think it's
Yeah.
going to come down to either Florida, because Buffalo has been drafting nothing but defense.
Yeah, they've
last
drafted
couple-
their goalies, they drafted their defensemen. They're building from the goalie outwards.
Yeah.
They're the one that takes.
So I actually think that Buffalo, regardless of where they pick,
They're
is gonna
taking one of the
pick
Sams.
forward. Yeah.
They would
Yeah,
take-
sorry. They said. I know they've said they want Reinhardt really bad.
They
I think.
should too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone was giving him a hard time this week, or the last couple weeks, because he couldn't do pull-ups. Neither could Drew Doughty. And if you're that good and you're still weak, like,
Yeah.
by the time you get strong, you're gonna be a beast.
People forget he's only
Oh, yeah.
17. Like, pull-ups are not the end-all stat to whether or not you're going to be an NHL player.
No, I know, and everyone was giving him such a hard time because he couldn't do pull-ups. It's like, whatever. Kevin Durant couldn't, bench press 225, and look at him now in the NBA. It's like
Mhm.
these kids are, everyone's body develops
And
differently.
that's the question I think a lot of people have between him and Ekblad. Yep. I mean, Ekblad's already big and he's already doing a lot. And it's like people say, he already does so much in the WHL.
Mhm.
Or yeah,
OHL.
how much more potential does Ekblad have? Well, or OHL, sorry about that. But for Bennett, I mean, he's so good and he still has so much room for improvement with both, strength. Probably he can gain so much more speed through strength in his legs, things like that. So, I don't know. In my opinion, I think Reinhardt and Bennett should go first. If I had to pick, I'd pick one of them, and I'd pass on Ekblad. But because of the teams that are up at top, they just need D.
But Florida has a couple young guys that they've drafted recently, in Huberdeau and what's his name from last
Good
year?
Branson, I think, in 2010.
Well, yeah, him too. No, but I was actually thinking about
Let's see.
Barkov.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So they're set on offense, in my opinion, for the last couple of years on prospects. But yeah, I agree that Bennett and Reinhardt might be, in the long run, better players overall.
Mhm.
But there's that whole adage of you can't teach size, and Ekblad's 6'3", 215 already. It's like, and they say he's already NHL ready. I mean, once that guy fully develops, he's gonna be a beast.
Yeah.
Imagine if he just grows another inch by the time he's 20,
Oh,
puts
yeah.
on another 10 pounds. The guy's just
Do you
gonna
think
wreck
he'll be a
people.
generational defenseman?
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
That's tough to say. Like I said, defensemen drafted so early obviously have a terrible track record. There's very few players that are drafted this early. I mean, for every Drew Doughty you have an Eric Johnson.
Hmm. Oh.
Generational defenseman. Who do you put in that label in the last 20 years besides Pronger and Lidstrom?
Doughty.
Lidstrom was drafted in '89 though, so that doesn't count because that's
Yeah.
more than 20 years ago.
Niedermeyer.
So
Niedermeyer.
I mean,
Put
in the
Niedermeyer, I
last,
guess, yeah.
what's that?
Niedermeyer should be up there.
Yeah.
Who else?
There's very few.
Yeah. There's not many defensemen that can just.
I mean,
Make a
Chara
team.
had to really develop. I would say he's close, but he had to really develop. He was just huge and had a
Chara's
big
Yeah.
stick. But
Which-
I will give him credit that he's done a lot of work to make himself better. Unlike, say, who's that dude in Buffalo that's 6'8"?
Oh yeah.
Tyler Myers,
That's
who has size as well. He's 1 inch shorter than Chara, but that guy hasn't developed into anything that we thought he would.
He was on
Yeah.
Buffalo, so what do you expect?
I mean,
Yeah.
there's a point where you just have to develop into a smarter player instead of just being a bigger player.
Hmm. Yeah.
I think Chara's on that cusp though, where you could say he's going to be remembered for a long time.
Yeah, he's gonna be a Hall of Famer. Everyone knows that, but
I don't know if I put him there yet.
one of the biggest thing for him is the reason he is so good is because he's so big. I feel is because he can reach farther than many people and can because he's so big he can box out like players easier and take them out.
I agree
That's
on all
my
that,
feeling
but
with
I also,
him.
like I said before, I think that when he was younger, he was still not very good, and I think he's gotten a lot better. He's gotten a lot smarter. He works really hard.
He's grew into his size basically and was able
Yeah.
to use it to his advantage.
Whereas I don't think a guy like Tyler Myers has so far, and I hope maybe someday he does.
Oh,
But-
Tyler Myers.
Tyler Myers is 6'8".
Mm.
Yeah.
He is only 24 years old, so he still has a lot of time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he was drafted the same year as Doughty too. That might end up being the best defenseman draft class in a long time. 2008.
Who was all in that? What defensemen were in that draft? I think I know. Who it was.
Bogosian was. Let's see.
Luke Shen was.
Yeah,
Oh, that's where we got Sabasa from.
that draft is ridiculous for defensemen.
A lot of
Let's see.
defensemen.
You had Peter Angelo. You
You have Doughty,
had Doughty, obviously.
Pietrangelo.
Tyler Ennis.
Like
No,
I
that's a
said,
break, sorry.
yeah, Jake Gardner was in that.
Roman Yossi.
Lucas Spiza, Michael Delzato, who have both maybe end up not being that great, but Slava Voinov went in the second round.
Not that bad of a class, I guess. That was the
Yeah.
Justin Schultz class also. We're still kind of waiting on him. Wasn't he like the best defensive prospect in the game at one point?
Schultz?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
That's why it was such a big deal that he was who he was going to go with. And he ended up in Edmonton.
What a place to end up.
Yeah. So I guess, who do you guys think the blockbuster deal is going to be this year? That's
For-
wrapping up the
For
trade.
free agent or just for trades? or
For trades, like draft day trades, the big blockbuster deal. Because, last year we had the Corey Schneider trade. The year before that we had the Jordan Stahl trade. Who do you think is going to be this year?
I think the first pick will be a big trade because I don't see Florida wanting to keep that.
I can see it if they can give it up. I feel like they're a team that would, because you know how they dealt with their last first round pick they had, first overall,
Yeah.
which was just a situation. But I can see them trading it if the deal is right. I mean, most teams probably wouldn't, but I feel like they would, as long as since this draft isn't that deep, I feel like it would be easy. It's gonna be easy for them to trade.
Yeah.
So, what do you think, LA Kings, Dave?
I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I'm gonna say Vancouver trades Kessler to Toronto
Really? For who do you think?
for Kadri and some people because they need a better they need a better defensive center.
Mhm.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they're going to trade him to the Ducks because they're in the division.
Mhm.
And Kadri, I don't think, is liked by the coach in Toronto. So I think that kind of makes sense where you move Kadri, who's still young, to a team that's young, where maybe he can play with the Sedins.
Okay.
And then you move Kessler to a team that needs a defensive centerman for their second line.
They still have to figure out that first line is probably one of their biggest things.
I understand, but I mean, if Kessler, I think, is going to move, and I think that's going to be the biggest thing on draft day. And with that, I think that maybe Toronto could move up a couple spots too to Vancouver's spot if they wanted.
I mean, usually the big things about the big blockbuster, it has to deal with being whoever's home arena it was. I know 2 years ago with the Jordan Stahl, it was Pittsburgh. Last year, it was in New Jersey with the Corey Schneider trade. So this year it might have something to do with the Flyers, in my opinion.
And when it was at Staples Center and I was there, it was a huge disappointment because we didn't draft Emerson Edom. That was fucking bullshit. Pardon my French.
I was there too.
You were?
Yeah.
You guys could have
Okay.
met.
How much was that just stupid? Because we have a guy that played for the Junior Kings, who's the highest rated Southern California player of all time, that we could have drafted, and instead we let him go to the Ducks.
I remember the booing
Like,
that
who
happened.
does that?
Oh my god.
I felt bad for Derek Forbort, who got drafted by us, who's still sitting in our minor leagues now because people booed. Like, it's your home team and you just got drafted, and they booed because you didn't make the smart decision. And now Ederson Edom was just playing in the playoffs for the Ducks, and he's a big part of their future plans. Like, everybody saw this coming. This was the worst move. This wasn't the worst move, but this is the most annoying move for most Kings fans by Dean Lombardi. We love Dean Lombardi. He's brought us 2 championships, but why did you not draft Emerson Edom that year?
I'm happy I
I
don't have to
finally
worry
understand
about
why
my
everyone
being
booed.
How many players did you meet, dude? I met so many players in that draft that day. They were just walking around the stadium, Dave.
Yeah, there were a lot. I met
Yeah.
the guy who was the nicest that I met Goodbranson, and Goodbranson was just awesome.
I wish I could go to the draft this year.
Why don't you?
Do you guys have to pay?
They were originally free, but they sold out in pre-sale for like season ticket holders. Bought
Yeah.
them all. Bought. I mean, took them all for both days. So now the day one is going for like $60-$70, and I'm not that desperate to go to the draft. And day
Wow.
two is like $25, but you go for day one, in my opinion. You don't go for really day two.
Oh yeah, yeah. I went for day one, and even then it was, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember any of them even being paid. I got them for free.
No,
I mean,
we all
this
got
is
in
like
for free,
StubHub.
but we all left like in the second round because at that point,
Same.
They're not being called up to the stage anymore. They're just going to the tables. It's not that big of a deal anymore, in my opinion.
pretty
after
much
the
like
first round.
once the first round was done, we all waited to see where Emerson Edom got picked, and he got picked 29th that round by the Ducks.
Wait,
So,
not that long.
and then we waited to the first round to see, I forget else we wanted, but I think maybe it was Justin Falk or somebody. We just wanted to see where the top U.S. guys were going.
Oh, all the tickets have actually been sold on StubHub. Okay then,
Interesting.
couldn't even go anyway. So, is there anything else we wanted to cover? Who do you guys think your team was going to draft this year? Who do you want them to draft?
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, we don't have a pick, so.
You don't have a first-round pick?
Nope, we gave it to Tampa for San Luis.
Oh, right.
Yeah, if we made the Eastern Conference Finals, that was the conditional pick. If we made the Eastern Conference Finals, we give them first pick. If not, I think it was a second.
Mm-hmm. Who's the top rated? Who's the left wings in this? No, we're not going to get Bennett. One of the left wings, I feel like. We're going to draft a left winger, in my opinion. Hopefully, we draft a left winger.
Sonny Milano. Do it.
Who?
Sonny Milano. What position is he?
Left wing.
Where is he on? I don't see him.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about your guy.
No.
there.
I think, well, the thing is with our team is even though our actual LA Kings are good at center, a lot of people feel our centers are weak in the organization. Also, our goaltending is weak now that we got rid of Scribbins and brought up Martin Jones. So I wouldn't be surprised if we grab a center or a goalie, but I think that the goalies are kind of weak in this draft. So if I'm going to pick a center, I'm going to say maybe some people have already mentioned Jakob Vrana, who's from Sweden. Also, potentially, I've heard John Quinville
Okay.
would be interesting.
Or I hope we go with the left wing that's sniper. That's more shooting than anything else. Because that's what our top line is missing, that pure sniper. I mean, Hartnell is Hartnell. You can always expect him to put up goals, but he is not fast enough to stick with that top line. So that's the biggest thing we need. We're very deep on We're getting very deep on defense. We have 4 really big defensive prospects. We have 2 really big center prospects. Our right wing is stacked up in the on the team, so we don't need that. We're kind of set for goaltenders, so we only really need our left wing, which is very weak. So hopefully they make that something. Though with Hextall, no one knows how he's going to draft.
If he drafts anything like the Kings have drafted, you're probably looking at a big body.
Which is something he has said that he wants a big body, fast skating, shooting winger for the first line. That's why they like having Hartnell on the first line, because he's a big body. He can shoot if he is able to keep up with the play, but he's not fast whatsoever, and he falls down a lot. Yeah. So we're probably gonna draft a left winger. So that's probably that's all down to it. Okay. Everybody have anything else?
No. Well, I know the only thing I have to say about the Rangers not having a pick is, even though we have a good squad right now, and yeah, we have a decent youth core, I think that come a few years, we're going to be really screwed because, I think the lack of first-round picks are really going to come back to hurt us. Because I think it's been like almost, 2-3 drafts now that we don't have a first-round pick.
That's going to hurt you.
Yeah.
It seems that actually something just came out about Kessler. Apparently he only wants to go to the Blackhawks or the Penguins. Just get across my Twitter feed.
Well, both of those make sense. It's just what can they give up to get him?
Yeah.
If that's the case, I hope he goes to Pittsburgh for obvious reasons. But
why?
Because
why would you go to Pittsburgh? No.
Because I don't want the Blackhawks to get any better.
I don't want Pittsburgh to get any better. Especially since they have a coach that might be able to. They might have a coach that might be able to deal with their stars and make.
I'm surprised. Yeah, actually, that's one reason I'm surprised he would say that right now, because he doesn't even know who the coach is going to be. What if he's like, I want to go to Pittsburgh, and they trade him to Pittsburgh, and then he hates the coach,
and Torts comes in.
Yes. That would be awesome.
Torts should either go there or to Florida, though. I think Florida now has their coach. Yeah, he should go to Florida just so Luongo can get very angry. And we see angry Luongo on Twitter.
That'd be amazing. Even though it was funny seeing on NHL Revealed when he tweeted out #FreeTorts. That was great.
I didn't get to see that. Okay, so since we don't have anything else, I guess I'll wrap this up.
Well, our
Sweet.
hockey is doing a mock draft tomorrow, if anybody
Yeah, that's true.
cares.
Yeah, that's gonna be
So,
fun.
A lot of crazy
Um,
trades and stuff.
How did your trades go out, LA Kings Dave? Did you trade at all?
no, I didn't trade anything because nobody would make a good offer. Well, obviously I have the last pick in both rounds. Well, New Jersey has the last pick in the first round, but that's, because of whatever.
Yeah.
But it was just nobody would give me a good trade, and originally we were only going to do one round, so everybody kept trying to just trade for my draft pick. I'm like, well, that's stupid because then I do nothing for the draft if my only draft pick gets traded. But then they decided to do a second round on Sunday, and I don't know. The trade deadline's already passed, so it doesn't really matter now.
Oh, the trades are done.
Yeah, as
I mean,
of
they're 24.
an
they're
hour
just
ago or
out
whatever,
24
the
hours,
trade
yeah.
deadline passed, and most of the most of the trades that were offered to me were just terrible. I'm not really surprised that user Patrick Kane was able to do what he did with Chicago and just bend everybody over because so many people were terrible.
Mhm.
I would say that him and Lone Wolf Commando from the Arizona, they did pretty well in their draft or
They're
trading.
trades. Mhm.
But it was just like nobody would trade anything good because obviously we won this year, so everybody's like, well, A, we don't really need a whole lot, and B, nobody wants to trade with us, and unless they just they're like, oh, I'll trade you this for a bag of pucks, and you're like, I don't know. This is the first year I've done this mock draft thing, and I don't know that I would do it again if everybody just acts stupid and pretends like they're trying to trade against a GM that's, an NHL 15 or something,
Yeah.
I felt like I was the GM even though I wasn't. Because I was basically approving or disapproving thing. Well, I wasn't approving, disapproving. I was strongly recommending about different trades that he was bringing to me. But yeah, we didn't.
Nobody else in the King subreddit even nobody seemed to care. So whatever, that's fine. I don't really mind that. It's just it would have been nice if we at least got a second GM or somebody that would have been more active in it.
Yeah. I mean, we have our mock draft thread has almost 300 comments on it. So
Just for the Flyers.
Just for the Flyers, yeah, almost 300.
We don't even have one in the Kings because nobody wanted to do it but me.
Yeah, he asked us to sticky it. I stickied it, and we have 300 comments now.
Wow.
Must be nice.
It's very nice to have a very active subreddit.
I'm gonna say I feel kind of bad for Woozle and the other guys over there because I know that you've heard others of us at the Kings, comment about the subreddit in the last couple seasons as we get these influx of bandwagon fans.
Mm-hmm.
It's really terrible. It makes you not even want to go to your team subreddit half the time because it's all just obviously every team subreddit is a circle jerk of their own team, but it's just fans that don't actually know anything and people posting memes or other stuff about, say, the Sharks or Ducks or whatever else, whoever we beat, and it's just garbage content half the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a very strict no garbage type of rule. Like we're referred to as we're the communist leaders of our Flyers most of the time, so we keep our front page as clean as possible.
Well, luckily we have a fascist as our, leader. So, good job.
The true fascist.
Yeah, we're communists. He's fascists. Yeah.
No, Woozle's great actually.
Woozle's a great person. Yeah. When I talk to him, he seems like he seems like a great person. So.
Yeah, Woozle's quality people.
Okay, so I guess now we'll finally, after trying to end this for the last 15 minutes, 20 minutes, finally end it. This has been the D4 the Mighty Dave Show. I'm Dave Ball, also known as Blinson on Reddit and at Blinson1 on Twitter. And with me, as always, was LA Kings Dave, as he's known on both Reddit and Twitter, and Dave Gamboa, known as David Gamboa on Reddit and Twitter. So, have a good night, everybody. You can find us at www.rhockeycast.com for our website. You can go to our subreddit, which is rhockeycast, or you can feel like there's a third thing I'm supposed to always bring up. You can follow us on Twitter at @OurHockeyCast. That's what it is. Okay, so have a good night.